Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic guest for the audience today. Everyone who's interested in learning about franchising, becoming a franchisee, licensing. And with that, I have Gary Prenevost, FranNet, your most trusted franchise experts. He's also author of The Unstoppable Franchisee, which we'll talk about. And again, Gary's no stranger to the show. We've had people interested in starting franchises. So you're a great guest. So Gary, welcome.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to the discussion, Christopher.
Yeah. So, kind of set the stage, talk about your company and your business, how you got started, and then we'll dive right into it.
Okay. I'm an early career banker. The real career was banking. I had a whole bunch of different jobs when I was in my teens, but I got into banking for about 7 years. My role was assistant managing and managing branches, and we have the internal auditors. They'd rate a branch below standard. I'd go in to clean up the mess, and my reward would be another messy branch. And then they kept on moving me around the province, and finally I said, I'm the contortionist in the invisible box. It takes too long to make decisions. It's all those things that a lot of corporate executives feel. I just felt it early in my career and became an entrepreneur at age 27. Started as a family business, live and artificial tropical plants, believe it or not. It was, we were doing interior scaping, but there was, with 7 family members and 6 of us in the business, there was too many people in let's just say, in the decision-making process, not in the execution process. And I didn't feel the fit completely, and didn't see long-term. One of my customers was a franchise, and they recruited me away. And I started selling franchises, then eventually bought a franchise within 7, 8 months. That was sales management, leadership training. So I became a business coach for 10 years. Along the way, my partner and I took over that company, and we grew it to 110 franchises in Canada. And FranNet, interestingly enough, was one of my lead sources for new franchisees. And the guy who ran FranNet for Canada kept on saying, Gary, you'd be really good at this. You'd be really good at this. And for 2 years, he was knocking at my door saying, why did you come to this side? So 2002, I did. Divested of that company and bought my FranNet franchise in 2002, and been with them, still have it, a multi-unit owner. Along the way, I've bought a couple of master licenses, Christopher. I was with iFranchise Group for 5 years, helping companies become franchisors. So I kind of sat on every side of the franchise table. And with FranNet, I became one of the top performers, one of the top 10 performers within a few years, and a number 1, number 2 franchisee for several years. And I started looking around saying, why don't more franchisees do just a few things differently to get that extra level of performance? And I realized as I was listening to my clients do their validation, because that's an important part of franchise research, is talking to existing franchisees, they were hearing the same things and differences between top performers and average performers. So I decided to kind of do some research and say, why is this happening? Why isn't anybody addressing it? In my research, I talked to over 30 CEOs of franchise systems, some of the biggest franchisors on the planet, with the focus on what do your top 1 to 4% franchisees do, traits, characteristics, what are their habits and their mental processes, and what do they not do that the rest of the franchisee do? So I got that juxtaposition. Then I went and interviewed their top franchisees, and that's how the 7 drivers came out. So now I'm helping existing franchisees take their businesses to the next level, helping franchisors at keynoting and all of those different things. But I think as with somebody who's looking at buying a franchise, all that perspective comes to bear, because strong success in franchising only comes when somebody chooses the right business. You can get the best brand in the world, but if you don't have the chops to execute it, or you don't like the work it takes, you're going to have mediocre results at best.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So then we're going to talk about this other question is, so one thing is talking about insights and strategy. You talked about some of the mistakes. So what are key factors to consider when evaluating a franchise opportunities?
Well, I think the first and most important step is the self-evaluation. A lot of people go to the market and say, what's out there? And they get seduced by those opportunities. They burn a lot of time looking at the opportunities. when they should first look at them. I believe there's three primary resources every business owner, whether you're a franchisor or not, has to bring to the business. That's money. How much money are they going to invest with capital? How much time? A lot of people underestimate the amount of time, especially if they're thinking semi-absentee businesses. I'll hire a manager to run it. But they're still responsible for running the business. So how much time can they really commit? And just as importantly, what is the structure of that time? I've had clients say, Gary, I want to spend more time with my kids, but I love the tutoring business as an example. Well, time with kids and tutoring business don't go hand in hand, because the tutoring business is an afternoon and evening business and weekends. So that's what I mean by the structure of time. When do they want that weekly input into the business? And I think the most important one, Christopher, is the transferable skills. What are the types of things that they've developed in their career? And this, I like working with people. Great, but that's like that big. What do you like doing with people? Are you an influencer? Are you a manager? Are you a coach? So you've got people, you've got operations, you've got finance, you've got technology, you've got the customer side of things. Nobody's good at everything. So, and different businesses have different needs. So if people look at what am I really good at that I've done in my career that I enjoy doing, that if I get to do that in my new business, that would be awesome. So they look at that and then they flip it over and say, what do I not look at? And this is the mistake a lot of people do, is they don't look at what they're not good at, or what do they dislike doing? Because if it's a core function of the business and they're not good at it or dislike doing it, what's going to happen? Human nature, it's going to slide off the end of the desk. Oh, I'll get to it. But that's how they end up with mediocre results. So I think there's that element. And then another component is what's been missing in their career that having a business will enable them to realize and fulfill. So a lot of people are looking for a franchise now, at their now, because they've got a current pain or a current challenge that they're wanting to change. I call it a growth catalyst. When the pain of doing something different, it's better than the pain of doing nothing. So the sacrifice that goes with launching a business is a better sacrifice than the pain of doing nothing and staying in that comfort zone. But that's not the reason they should buy a business. That's the reason why they should look at a business. Why they should buy a business is, okay, now I've been running it. I build it now from 3 years to 10 years, however many. What is that future state going to look like? And what do I need to do to create it? This is what I help people figure out, is what does that look like? Because that's why they're buying the business. They're looking now, but if they're only looking to get out of what they're doing, they're only going to risk exacerbating it in a different arena, just paying a lot of money for it by buying a franchise and buying the wrong franchise.
Yeah, really interesting. And we'll talk about franchisee, franchisor, business owner, business operator. So what are some of the how, like, there's so many concepts now, and how can a prospective franchisee determine if a concept will be successful in their market?
There's let's start first. In the U.S., there's between 3,400 and 4,000 active franchisors. Depends on which survey you read. In Canada, there's about between 1,000 and 1,100. So way too many choices. And I've seen people spend, literally, I've had one client spent 3 years looking for franchises on their own. They came to me and they had a franchise in 4 months. So it's seductive because it's really cool looking at all these different options. You'll learn a lot, but it's also burning time. If it's not going to take you where you want to go, then why look at it? So I think that that introspection that I just shared, when people look at what do they bring to the table, think about, Christopher, when when people are dating, when they're looking for that life partner, do they not have a file specification, like must be a non-smoker, must be fitness, whatever it is? They have 3 or 4 things that are must-haves, and everything else is a would be nice to have. Well, they should do that similar thought process for a business. This must be there, and a must-have is, if it's not there, close the file. It's not good enough. So when people, again, people have never bought a business before, they don't know how to do this. So that's where I come in and helping them really clarify and crystallize that. So now that they've got that criteria, now they look at businesses. You'll learn, I would suggest 3 to 5 franchises at once, no more. It takes about 5 hours per brand per week for about 8 to 12 weeks to properly research a business, progressively get through it, elimination, getting deeper and deeper. So the more brands you have, the longer you're going to take. If you're looking at it as a full-time business option, yeah, maybe 5 brands is good. But round one is let's look at what the best fits based on the criteria. Most of my clients buy after round one, but sometimes it's, hey, this isn't quite right. Okay, let's revise the business model. What do we learn about yourself, your criteria, and then we go to round two. But it's learning from the franchisor first. Roles, what is the role of the owner? What is the business model? What is the support? What is the coaching? What has to happen for the business to be successful? This is all the franchisors in the process trying to sell their franchise, right? So there's saying, here's how great and wonderful we are. Well, the client, the person who's buying the franchise should be taking that with a grain of salt. Now the next stage is they go and they talk to existing franchisees and how well is it working? What is the work it takes on a scale of 1 to 10? How good is the support? All that, like, quantify all the different areas. I think one of the most important elements of the validation is how much money can I make? You ask a franchisee how much money they can make or they're making, they're going to go like clams. It's like, that's none of your business. But if they ask a different question, Mr. Franchisee, I need to make at least $100,000 in my business. I know year one's going to be a sacrifice year, year two is a build year, but by the end of year two, based on your own experience and the franchisees that you work with, your peers, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is that? So you see how that they get closer to that answer. But if that's all they do is get that income picture, they've missed the point of the call with the existing franchisee. What they should be asking is, what is the work it takes to achieve at that level? Because that's what they've got to duplicate. Now, some people might say, hey, I only need to make $70,000, $80,000 a year. Somebody else might say, I need to make $200,000 a year. Whatever the goal is, they have to understand, is it 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units? How many does it take to achieve at that level? And what does the work it looks like take to run it? So that's what I help people figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. And, we're kind of, we have around 5 to 7 minutes remaining. And, I wanted to talk about, one thing is, you know, from a business operator to business owner, and how can you fit into the business owner paradigm as opposed to the business operator paradigm under this franchisee model. And, like I said, there's so many mistakes and there's like so much startup upfront cost. It's like almost like it's not sometimes people are like, yeah, it's not worth it because, you can scale, digital media companies and all of that. So talk about, business owner operator in this concept and then your book and then how people can find you.
Sure. I think there's 3 levels of ownership. You've got the owner operator who's full time in the business. The business relies on them to every day for the life of the business. They might build a team, but it still needs them. Then you've got the executive owner, where it might start out as an owner operator, but they're building a team. So by 2 years, 3 years, now they've got a team, and they can either go into semi-abs and team management and manage the team on a kind of 15-hour-a-week basis and dashboard management, or they can stay full-time in the business, focus on scale and growth. And that's really what do they want to scale. The third is the investor owner, and I still believe this is a semi-absentee model. Nobody should go into a franchise thinking I don't have to be hands-on. Like, if you're not prepared to put 15 hours a week for the life of the business into managing the team and managing the dashboard, you shouldn't be going into business. So I think that's a really important part, is understanding what is the expectation. And it's now you're hiring an experienced manager from the industry. They're running the day-to-day and you're managing the manager. These are where a lot of multi-unit franchises have. I've worked with people who start off with one and they scale to 3. I've had other people go up to 10 and 15 units. So it really depends on the appetite for scale and the timing of scale. And that also depends on the maturity of the franchise. If you have a very well-known brand and a mature franchise, it's got a lot of structure and process and a lot of safety, but not a lot of scale because most of the territory around them is taken. So there's a balance between the youngness and the provability of the model and the appetite for scale and all those different things that we've been talking about. So,
yeah. How can people contact you, find you, check out your book and so on?
Just do a Google search on Gary Prenevost. I'll be on LinkedIn. My book, The Unstoppable Franchisee. So I've got a website called the unstoppablefranchisee.com. So that is one of the ways, some of the best ways to get a hold of me. And then
Yeah.
at www.frannet.com/Gary Prenevost.
Yeah. And for all the audience listening, Gary for coming on, check out his book. It's on Amazon. Check out his website, see if this franchise model works for you. Not and do your due diligence. And with that, thanks so much for coming on.
Okay, just if I could just do one comment because you mentioned that a lot of your audience are existing business owners. The book is written for existing owners to take their business to the next level. How do I break out of the current comfort zone, and what are the steps, whether it's a franchise or not? So there'll probably be some good insights for them. It's all based on top performers.
And thanks so much for coming on.
You're very welcome. Okay, all the very best.